Welcome to Cordkillers Reckoning. The world of entertainment is turned upside down, and we're just trying to find out how to watch what we want, when we want, where we want, whatever we want. I'm Tom Merritt. Where's the good stuff, Brian?
Oh my gosh, I tell you, it's easier to find it when you're sick with COVID. So,
oh my gosh, yes.
2 days late start this week.
Yeah, BioCow's out doing yard work. People are celebrating the UK election. There's something else going on today.
Yeah, no, I'm in solitary confinement. I wish I had more independence, Tom.
Yeah, how long left in your isolation do you have to go?
I think the latest standards are 5 days after the onset of symptoms, and then 24 hours of being fever-free.
Fever-free.
Fever's the big one, and the fever broke like a couple nights ago.
So you're not craving Pringles anymore.
Fever. Oh, yeah, it was Pringles. Wow, that's good advertising.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into the supply run then.
Supply run. Supply run. Supply run.
Longtime viewers of this show and Frame Rate know that I have been constantly documenting the strides made to cover the Olympics on streaming. And I'm proud to say that NBC, which has had the rights in the U.S. forever, is doing everything I've ever asked for. They're making all the events available on streaming. They are making it easy to watch things live, but also get recaps. And in fact, they're doing personalized sport recaps. You can say, these are the things I'm interested in. Team handball, javelin, and rhythmic gymnastics. Tell me only about those, and it will give you exactly that, Brian, just exactly what you want, recapped with a synthesized voice of Al Michaels.
Okay. Now, I was about to say, when you describe it out loud like that, that doesn't sound like anything new. This sounds like, you call to get the weather, and it's like the temperature is going to be 75 degrees. Watch for thunderstorms in the afternoon. But then the sampled voice, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you know this, the folks over at Reason Magazine took their editor-in-chief, Catherine Mangu Ward, and they made a facsimile of her voice. And now they have like 25 years of the best of Reason Magazine articles, and it passes much better. I don't think you'd be fooled entirely, but if you just want to like catch up on old articles, listen to this.
China out of Maoist isolation and into the global market as mere smoke and mirrors.
That's a generated version of her voice.
Yeah, correct. But
Wow.
but they did the same thing. They just took all of her podcasts and used it as the basis for it. So I don't think anybody will be fooled, but I don't think you want to be fooled. I think you just want it to sound. You know what? I just realized I almost certainly was playing that at sped up. Podcast.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Well, because you're how fast do you play? We
3x. Sounded slow to me.
Okay. So this is the actual reading.
A quandary for the Hawks. If they argue that China's meteoric rise is indeed the fruit of its totalitarian system and extraordinary organization,
at regular speed, it may sound a little more enunciated than maybe she would have. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just making that up because I know it's generated.
There were a few times I caught like genuine emphasis at the right time. So I think that the LLMs are getting better at taking the text and knowing, like, for example, ending with a question mark and, that kind of stuff.
All right, let's take a listen to this. Tell me what you think of this.
Hi, Kelly. Welcome to your daily Olympic recap, your personal rundown of yesterday's most thrilling Olympic moments.
Then there's
Since
video.
You're a swimming fan, let's head right to the pool. Team USA secured a stunning victory in the men's 4x100 meter medley relay, smashing the world record. Over at the diving venue, Krista Palmer showcased resilience and skill, overcoming past knee surgery.
This is fine. This is a fine first draft. I could see that. Maybe 4 years from now, certainly there's going to be passion and emphasis and like underscoring of how important this moment was, and possibly even some of that play-by-play energy. I don't know.
I definitely feel like this is impressive now, because it sounds natural. It doesn't sound like a robot voice. It sounds like Al Michaels does now. They trained it on, with his permission on current things that NBC owns. You can hear the age in his voice. I was at first wondering like, well, why didn't they use a younger Al Michaels? And I'm like, because that would have been creepy. That's why. So you want it to sound like he sounds now, and it's personalized. Like, hey Kelly, for you because you type in your name. Hey Brian, we know you love team handball. Here's the latest from the Netherlands in the team handball competition. You're right. It doesn't have a huge range of emotion in the little sample we heard, but there's emphasis, there's cadence. I think you're also right that like 5 years from now, we're going to listen to that and be like, how did that ever fool anyone? You could tell it's AI so easily.
Well, and that's one of the ongoing discussions we have over at the Weird Things podcast, where anybody who's afraid of getting replaced by AI, who is a creative, has to understand that that the consumer gets more and more savvy. They want more and more precision. They want more and more of live performance. Plays will never die. Which would you rather see, the actual live performance of Hamilton or a very high fidelity recording of Hamilton? And I think that it's the consumers who become more savvy to these things over time.
I think the other thing that caught my eye about this story is, again, like I said in the setup here, I've been waiting for them to take advantage of streaming to give us everything you can for the Olympics, right? And if you don't care about the Olympics, I think I'm not trying to say this is the most important thing out there. I think it's a unique challenge that is uniquely suited to streaming, which is, I do enjoy watching the Olympics, but I also think, yes, a short term, 2 to 3 weeks of many, many sporting events happening at once in a time zone that is always different every time. How do you make sure that everybody can access everything they want, what you want, when you want, wherever you want? Well, streaming lets you do that. A single channel did not let you do that. That's why when ABC was covering the Olympics in the 80s, they had one primetime edited thing. They'd go live if they could, but otherwise it was all as if it was live. And we dragged our feet on that for a long time, still delivering that when you had not only multiple cable channels, which they took advantage of, but streaming that could let you just give you everything. And an Olympics organization that was covering everything. So even if you didn't have the wherewithal to assign commentators, you could just take a pool feed.
Well, and I do remember that you were particularly vexed multiple years at how almost the Olympics coverage
yeah, it kept getting closer and closer. So to bring it all back, I think this story caught my eye because this is the first time they've added something. They've added something that wasn't obvious, that like, well, of course you could do that. Of course you could stream individual events. Of course you could personalize a feed. Of course you could even do personalized highlights, based on a selection. But I never would have guessed. I never ever said, you know what else I want? Al Michaels saying my name when he reads the recap of my sports to me.
Think about this. Like, if you care enough about the sport, and let's say it's in the section of the world where it's going to be played at, let's say, 3 a.m, I don't see any reason that the phone can't ring and keep on calling you till you wake up. And then it says, Tom, it's Al Michaels. We're just about to start.
I know you're sleepy, but fire up your Peacock because you're not going to want to miss this. They also are doing some other fun things that, we should acknowledge. I think Snoop Dogg is doing some commentary again, and some other fun alternate takes. That seems to be another thing streaming is doing with sports, is you can have your choice of commentators, right? We've seen that with football and other sports. So they're doing that with the Olympics a little bit as well. You can choose more fun commentators for certain things. But do we want more of this Al Michaels AI type stuff? Not necessarily always Al Michaels, but is that a good thing, or is it just kind of this is a flash in the pan gimmicky kind of thing?
Well, this is one that we want to hear from the audience. Cordkillers@gmail.com. Write us where the creepy line is and whether or not we've already passed the uncanny valley. And but having said that, whether we want it or not, my prediction, I won't even put it in an envelope, is that we're going to get a lot more of all of them.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. How much more do you want? And maybe you won't know until they try a bunch of it and you hear it and you're like, that didn't work. That did. That's often how this stuff goes, right?
Yeah.
Well, we guarantee that we will always be humans, at least for the next, 10 years?
Well, at least I would hope. I would like to remain human indefinitely, Tom. But
yeah, I mean, the show 30 years from now might involve AI versions of us.
Oh, you're talking about the show. I mean, I thought you meant you and me. I would like to remain a human.
That's a philosophical question. Can I be alive and not be human?
You know what? That's the kind of philosophical discussion that we have in After Talk, which is exclusively available to our patrons. So head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. You guys are the ones that keep us loud, live, and independent. And we are just packing more and more value into the bonus behind the scenes content. That's where Spoiler in Time has been revived. That's where I'm going to be talking about Shogun, which I watched because I was sick, 8 episodes of over the last couple of days. We also, of course, you get early access to the full experience. And most importantly, you are making magic happen so that we can show up every single week, rain or shine, sick or well, for you.
Yeah. In fact, COVID had this nefarious plan to stop you from getting Cordkillers. It went after Brian, and it thought it won, but it had not, because Amos and I still did bonus content for you on Monday about our setups, how we watch television. So take that, COVID, stick that in your virus and decompose. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's move on to the search party. Brian, I know you're still recovering a little bit, but how are your legs? How are you?
Well, I mean, I'm seated, so yeah.
But do you feel like you could do a victory lap if you needed to?
Oh, I was more worried, like, if I was standing, this next bit of news might cause me to have my knees buckle underneath me, and I openly weep to the heavens.
What? Let's just refresh the memory of longtime listeners and inform new listeners. What is the thing that you have consistently said you wanted from a Fantastic Four movie?
Going all the way back through every iteration of the Fantastic Four for over, I believe, the duration of this entire program, for 14 years, I've just said, guys, just set it in Soviet era 1960s. Just embrace the cheese. Just set it in the 1960s. It's the only way to make this work. And then we got that Valentine's, and it's like, that looks kind of like it belongs in Harper's Magazine. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then what's today's news item, Tom?
Kevin Feige told the official Marvel podcast the Fantastic Four will be a period piece set in New York City. However, possibly not the New York City many are familiar with.
Okay, you forgot the part that is set in 1960s New York.
Yeah. 1960s New York. If you haven't been following the casting, it's Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and Eben Moss-Bacharach as Ben Grimm. Matt Shackman, who did Monarch: Legacy of Monsters and WandaVision, is directing. The screenplay was written by Josh Friedman, Jeff Kaplan, and Ian Springer. And yes, the signature part that Brian needs to make sure we all understand is, you were right, 1960s, man. That's awesome.
You know what I really, really hope is that, and we'd speculated about this before, wouldn't it be neat if this was a beginning of a Silver Age of Comics MCU, like a completely separate branch, you know?
Yeah, no, I would love that. Give me I know there's too many Spider-Men right now, but so far they're pretty good. Give me another one. Give me a Silver Age Spider-Man. Why not?
And certainly give me a Silver Age Hulk. And you know what? Now they could do the X-Men right. Do it as they were in the 1960s.
And that's what they should do, because this is the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are the two properties they are trying to rehabilitate. And the Wolverine thing with Deadpool, that's Deadpool. Deadpool gets to do crazy stuff that doesn't really have to stick around for anything else. You can just write that off and then give me a Silver Age X-Men. You know what? You're 1 for 1 so far. I'm doubling down on Silver Age X-Men. I like this.
Very cool, man.
The Boys co-creator and illustrator Derek Robertson recently confirmed to Rolling Stone that an early attempt to bring The Boys to the movies through film director Adam McKay took place in 2008. This was, if you know your timeline, before the launch of the MCU, before we really got rolling with the Feigeverse. The first one went as far as a finished screenplay. They even did some demo animatics, apparently, but could not get it greenlighted. If he had done it now in post-MCU Hollywood, probably would have gotten greenlighted. And obviously we have the experiment of a TV show based on The Boys getting greenlighted. But would you have preferred movie series of this or not, Brian?
Not well. I mean, again, alternate universe. In 2008, I would have just been happy for anything good superhero-y. But so much I can't unknow what I've seen from the TV show. So much of it is based on essentially the idea of what if the Avengers were also a corporation and had shareholders.
Yeah.
So much of it was paved the way by MCU. I'm happy with The Boys we got.
Yeah. And the Boys, there's some other stuff in this. Apparently The Boys originally was supposed to be DC. It was supposed to be in the DC universe, and the corporation was going to be there, but they are like, we can't get away with that. Neither can get permission, nor do we think we could get forgiveness. So they changed it to the situation of The Boys now, where it's an entirely separate universe, which they were saying, like, we think it ended up being better because then we got to create Homelander instead of having to use Superman. Dan Harmon says, hey, you know those new voices on Rick and Morty? Oh, you forgot? Yeah, so did everybody else. He was asked about, how the new voices for Rick and Morty are coming along. And he's like, I can't tell the difference. The characters are the characters. Let's move on. As far as I can tell, we're past it. It worked. We transitioned to a new era. And if the show sucks from here forward, it's for the usual reasons any show can suck, not because of these dramatic events.
Yeah, he also goes on to talk about the kind of the rebootiness of this season. The fact that, this is a show that is being built that it can be a Family Guy and just run for 1,000 episodes. So like this idea of the 70 episode run, and if they stick the landing on this and the views keep going and this continues to be a bunch of people's favorite shows with a little asterisk of, how it got created, Rick and Morty, 100 years, Tom.
Yeah. Hold on while I put on some armor, for the tomatoes that are about to be thrown at me for even suggesting this, but an animated show, particularly with voice synthesis the way it is, as good as it is now, as we heard with Al Michaels, you could just have these created forever. You've got a nice set of training data right here with the current Rick and Morty's.
Yeah. And he also mentions, like, he says, everybody, please stop harassing Donald Glover about the Community movie.
Yeah, for the Community movie. I read that part too.
It's a miracle that we're making any progress at all. Don't make him regret this.
He basically said, look, no, Donald Glover wants to do this. He is not the thing that's holding it up, but he will be if you don't stop bugging him. So I mentioned that The Acolyte was pretty good. I was enjoying it, but I wasn't sure if I'd recommend it for Brian. Of course, because there are, 9 billion people on the planet now, something like that. There was one of those 9 billion people who thought I was an awful person for saying anything nice about The Acolyte. I continue to watch it. I've found the most recent episode at worst boring. Not damning. What I would say to you, Brian, is the good things that are there are it gives you the worn, used universe without relying on any of the Skywalker saga stuff. It is brilliant at that. It looks great. It feels like Star Wars without trying to push Darth Vader or Yoda or anybody else in your face. It's really good at that. It's got some great battle scenes. What I feel like it falls down on is maybe the plot is getting a little too complicated for its own good. They tried to introduce a twist, and I felt it got a little draggy. That is not why people are mad about The Acolyte, nor why the one person in 9 billion thought I was an awful person for saying anything nice about it. Here are the two things, and these are going to be slightly spoilery. If you don't want to be spoiled on The Acolyte, pause for the next minute. These are the two things people are mad about for The Acolyte. And Brian, I would like you to sit in judgment on whether you think these are legitimate objections or not, because they may be. But I'm going to throw them in front of you as an impartial person who has not watched The Acolyte, nor is your personality tied up in whether it's good or not. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
It is implied that a baby is conceived with the Force, which is in contradiction to Anakin Skywalker supposing to be the chosen child.
Okay. First of all, if anything, that fixes that, because I thought that was the stupidest thing in all of the movies. I was like, the son of the sun thing, like whatever that thing was. Splinter to the mind's eye. Yes, no, thumbs down to that. I give execution to that idea.
Yeah, I will write a concurrence to your opinion and say it's also not the same thing. Like, you can have the chosen child and still have this other way and be like, there's lots of ways to explain yourself out of like, well, they thought it was working that way, but it really wasn't. And whereas in Anakin's case, it was, et cetera, et cetera.
Currently doing that same bit in the Avatar series. A spoiler for Avatar 2.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's number 2. There's a character called Ki-Adi-Mundi. He's a Jedi. Do you familiar with Ki-Adi-Mundi? He's got the big, I don't know what shape that is, like an upside down daikon. It's like a big radish head. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He shows up in The Acolyte, which would make him 40 years older than people thought he was, according to the Clone Wars.
Look, you accept that Baby Yoda is older than I am, but Baby Yoda is older than both you and I, Tom. Okay, no quarter. Send them all to the stocks. They're to be shamed. We will hand out tomatoes.
You will be held until your sentence will be carried out. Thank you. Criticisms of The Acolyte. All right, let's go to Downton Abbey, or let's get ready to go to Downton Abbey. If you want to go to Downton Abbey, our third time in the movies, well, September 12th is the day of 2025. Not of this year.
So another movie with the same cast from the TV show.
Yeah, set a few years later from the most recent movie, continuing to bring them farther into the 20th century. I love the Downton Abbey gestalt, and so I'm looking forward to this. It is definitely made for Downton Abbey fans, though. I don't think they're even trying. I don't think they would say that they're trying to win over new people or anything. And if you're a Harley Quinn fan, good news about a spinoff, Kite Man, hell yeah, with 2 episodes on July 18th, followed with a new episode weekly through September 12th.
You know what? I loved Harley Quinn very, very much when I started watching it. And then they had the kind of Sam and Diane, will they, won't they, with her and Poison Ivy. And the moment they got together, I kind of stopped watching, and it was truly just because there was no interesting tension there. But now my favorite character, Kite Man, back in.
Back in. Yeah. Go check it out on Max, July 18th. Let's move on to the buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
So, Brian, you teased us that while you had little energy to do much else, you caught up a little on Shogun. Did you make it all the way through?
I'm up to episode 8, almost all of which I've watched in the last 24 hours. It's because that's the thing about being sick. It's like you can't even enjoy sitting up straight and watching things. But my first test was I called my wife and I was like, Bonnie, I have wonderful news. I think my fever broke. I tested it by trying to watch TV. I also have terrible news. I think my brain is damaged because I'm watching Godzilla -1 and I think it's excellent.
You would not be the only one. A lot of people are saying nice things about that.
Not much to spoil here, but what I loved is it's the first Godzilla, I think, made in my lifetime, or at least my living memory. Like, going back to Godzilla 1985 was probably the last Godzilla movie that did Godzilla right, which is Godzilla is a monster And most of the movie is about the humans who who you should feel something for as they deal with real life problems. And then a tornado, a 9/11, an atomic bomb, an earthquake, shapes their lives, and we see what these humans are made of in that spirit. And Godzilla is the enemy in Godzilla -1. This is a selling point, so I don't think it's a spoiler, but you see him at first as a dinosaur-sized monster, and then Bikini Atoll happens, and then you get supercharged. Oh shoot, we have a problem, Godzilla, and he's not a good guy at all. And the characters are fun and interesting to watch, and it's also of this era where it's the kamikaze. It takes place. Our main character is a kamikaze pilot who chickened out and turned around and came back, and everyone treats it. It's his darkest secret. It's very shameful. He lives a life as they repair and go through post-war and everything. It's better now. I will point out, they're so committed to the classic Godzilla look that his face looks as ridiculous as the rubber suit ever did, with just the bug eyes and the weird, the pumped belly and the little arms. It's amazing.
What'd you think of Shogun? I'm actually at 8 episodes. It's taken us several months because they're so heavy that we have to be in the right mindset and be able to focus. And with a new puppy in the house, it's sometimes hard to focus. But
I can't even take 2 steps away from the television. We'll talk about the story more in depth in spoiler in time. But would you agree, Tom, that Shogun is what if Game of Thrones had a hard mode? Like, as a viewer, not only do you have to pay attention to who's making what feints and which direction. Most of it is not in English, and a lot of it has no dialogue. And you're like, was that a coy smile?
And based in reality. That's the other extra thing on top of this is these are all historical figures with many exceptions, of course, but it's set in a real era of history. So.
Also, shouts out, it's executive produced by Justin Marks. Do you remember the same Justin Marks that did, do you remember Counterpoint with J.K. Simmons? Yeah. So it's good to see him have such an excellent prestige project.
Yeah. Who's the other EP on it?
It's somebody's name starts Kondo, I think, Kon.
Rachel Kondo. Yeah.
There you go. Look at that. Stay mine like a steel trap, this COVID-addled brain.
That is Justin Marks' spouse. And
right on.
Yeah. So check that out. All right. I want to talk about The Bear. The Bear is now Hulu's biggest scripted TV premiere ever in season 3. So it is one of those shows that is growing every season versus the normal pattern for shows is maybe they start to decline in later seasons as people get used to them and the fans consolidate. It is definitely growing, and this, I would say, was their best season yet. I think you have to have the first 2 seasons to make this the best season, but they didn't just give you more of the bear. They advanced the story. They experimented with different ways of telling stories. They gave you focused episodes. The first episode itself has 3 lines of dialogue in it, and you don't even notice. It's wonderful. It turns Carmi into an anti-hero, but not an unsympathetic anti-hero. You know exactly why he is the way he is being, and it's kind of hard to see a way out for him, even though you want there to be. And you also know that the other characters around him are making choices and facing difficult choices. And I don't think I know what I would do in their situation, which makes you so much more invested in the story because you're not sitting there going, well, the obvious choice is this. Let's see if they make the right choice or not. You're like, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what I would do. And then there's just the general background of obviously getting good information about how kitchens work and why chefs are enthusiastic about food. stellar cast. I cannot say enough good things. Even with the puppy in the house, the bear also needs your concentration. We blazed through this. Every moment that the puppy was asleep, we're like, okay, let's turn on the bear. Let's see where we can go. And we got through it in, most of a long weekend.
That's awesome. Are you ready to recommend that I return to it? Because the themes got heavy for me back in season 1. But,
I would
I'm in a different place now.
I was going to say, I would absolutely recommend you return to it when you feel you are ready to deal with that theme.
Yeah.
Because that theme is not going away. That theme is a driving motivator. And there's even a wider version of that theme, branching out to other characters in different ways. One of them loses their mother. So that kind of hit home with me. But yeah, if you're in the space where you're like, yeah, no, I think I could watch this, I 100% recommend it.
Yeah. Right on.
All right, folks, if you got something we should be on the lookout for, let us know. Email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Let us know what you are watching. And Brian, this would be your turn to tell folks something you're up to these days.
Yeah, I can't. I could drop some hints. I'm again going to punt, and I'm going to say, please, please, please sign up for the Scam Stuff email list. All you have to do is go to gimme, that's gimme.scamstuff.com. There'll be something. We do a giveaway every week. Whether you win or not, you'll eventually be on the list, and there's a certain item that every single year we launch, and it's an artistic labor of love. It's something that people have collected them year after year for many, many years, and we're closing. We're about to close in on the next of them, and I'm very proud of it. I just saw some of the preliminary art. I think you're going to like it quite a bit. Also, go check out the store, scamstuff.com.
Excellent. Let's scan the horizon.
Send a scanning to abort.
Scanning the horizon!
Netflix has started sending notices to U.S. subscribers that the $12 a month basic ad-free plan is done. They need to switch to a new plan if they want to keep watching. The choices are pay less, $7 a month, but put up with ads. That's the ad basic plan that is replacing the ad-free basic plan, or go up to the interim plan, which is $15.49 a month and is ad-free and gives you high definition. You could also go all the way to the top, get the 4K plan, which is $22.99 a month. And the higher tiers give you more simultaneous streams as well.
To be honest, this is the right pricing strategy to do. If you're going to take away a thing that people like, you offer a very simple choice that are slightly different, but each one you can squint and decide is better. Yeah.
It is definitely what many would call a cash grab, which I call improving revenue, which is saying, you know what, we make a lot of money off ads. So if we can move the $12 people to a $6.99 a month basic plan with ads, we will make more money off of each person.
Well, and also it's like, I'm certain if you're like, hey, I liked it better when you guys were losing $1 billion a year on all of these original properties. And they're like, yeah, that was a fun time.
Yeah, good
this
times.
is the part where we need to make it back.
Yeah, we kind of need to not do that anymore. Apple is releasing its first premium podcast with early access for Apple TV Plus subscribers. So they put out a press release that the dual language podcast My Devo will be the first podcast tied to an Apple TV Plus subscription. So if you're a subscriber, you'll get all 8 episodes of My Devo in English and Spanish when they connect their subscription to Apple Podcasts starting July 1st. So that's already there if you connected it. Non-subscribers get a new episode every week.
That'll be interesting to see if anybody cares. It's so wild that Apple, like, they're literally called podcasts, and Apple was the podcatcher of record, and their charts were all that matters. And then they just let it slip away, and now, and this seems like a pretty weak sauce attempt to reclaim some of it back. And I don't think it'll work, but good for them for trying, I guess.
I don't know that it has much to do with rejuvenating Apple Podcasts so much as it has to do with testing the waters on whether they can expand the appeal of the Apple TV Plus subscription to audio. Because remember, and if people didn't catch it, My Devo is not a TV show. It's not related to a TV show. It's a narrative podcast. So you're basically saying, hey, you like watching TV shows. Maybe you would like listening to audio, and we'll give you all of it earlier. But they're not taking anything away from free podcast subscribers. They're letting it continue to go to free podcast subscribers on the normal schedule.
Well, and we've seen some success with this, for example, with Audible Originals. You and I fell in love with Space 1969. And we've seen an attempt at making like YouTube Premium a thing where you could turn off your phone and it'll still play music. But when's the last time you used that feature for anything?
I don't know. Maybe when it first came out. Yeah.
So what we have is a hybrid of that. Like we're gonna both try an Audible Originals, which is to offer high fidelity programming, audio programming, but we're also going to take on the branding issue that YouTube had to deal with. YouTube, a video platform, like no, but we're also audio. So it just this. I'm not going to say it can't work.
I wonder if Apple knows that. In fact, Apple does know that. I think we all too often assume that companies are dumb unless they're super smart, right? If you take the collective criticism of the internet, it's companies are conniving and intelligent, but also the dumbest things ever at the same time, and neither one of those makes sense. They may be trying this with Apple TV Plus because it's an existing subscription that's close, as a way to justify, like, well, if it goes well there, maybe we'll add this to Apple One or add it to another subscription program rather than tying it to Apple TV Plus particularly. We'll see.
Yeah, fair enough.
If we had done the show earlier this week, I wouldn't have been able to tell you this. I would have told you something entirely different about Paramount, but we've been following the saga of Paramount trying to find someone to buy it. If you recall, it was Skydance, and then it was somebody else, and then it was just partnerships. And then it looked like maybe they were going to get Barry Diller of IAC involved, and now they're back to Skydance. Apparently, a new merger agreement has been agreed. That's often how this stuff goes. You can't get an agreement, so you entertain a few others to put some pressure, and then it clarifies things, and then you come back to the original agreement. But if shareholders approve it, Skydance and National Amusements would merge Paramount Global into Skydance Media. I don't think that's the end of the road for this. I imagine somebody could gobble up a combined Skydance and Paramount later, but it certainly allows the Sherry Redstone, the owner of National Amusements, which owns Paramount Global, to sort of divest herself of this, have some shares in a combined entity and not have to take care of it anymore. It becomes Skydance's problem at that point. Also, Paramount is been talking to Warner about combining Max and Paramount Plus. That could be baby steps towards a future merger, or it could just be a partnership. But the idea would be that for now anyway, the two companies wouldn't merge. They would just combine their two services as a joint venture, and you'd get all the Paramount Plus Showtime stuff and all the HBO Max stuff all in one service.
Yeah, so a bundling Abound.
Yeah, bundling continues to be in the offing. Did you hear about all the stuff Paramount was taking away from people, though, as a cost-cutting measure? Because, man, it would be nice if they get all their stuff resolved so they stop having to penny pinch and pull all of their archives off. The vast repository of content on Comedy Central's website, dating back 25 years, has been removed. The rationale is, you can get all these episodes on Paramount Plus. Why would we give you clips to promote it when you can just subscribe? They also removed like MTV News's backlog and a bunch of other things. So yeah, daily shows since 1999, segments from Colbert Report, a bunch of clips on YouTube, all of that stuff has been removed. They said, As part of broader website changes across Paramount, we have introduced more streamlined versions of our sites, driving fans to Paramount Plus to watch their favorite shows.
Now, there is an argument to be made that you don't need a mudslide of television available at all times, but it sounds like these are gone. They're not available over on Paramount Plus, right? You can't go back.
The whole show is, but the clips aren't.
Yeah. Okay. Meanwhile, that's what people want, is to find the freaking clips. I mean,
also the clips are on YouTube. They didn't pull them off YouTube. And if you remember, Paramount was the first one to try to sue YouTube for having their stuff on YouTube. They left the stuff on YouTube. Clearly, this is cost saving. This is them not wanting to have to maintain the website.
Wow. Yeah. And I can't speak to what the hard expenses are on that. So.
It costs more money than you might think. It's not a major expense, but when you're really cutting it close to the bone, I can see a rationale to be like, yeah, that'll save us, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more. So let's cut it off.
Especially
whereas keeping things on YouTube makes you money because you get money from YouTube for it.
Yeah. So basically, that's one thing. Like, what a revolution it was! Like to have a CR. What do they call it? The things that host the things.
CDN.
A CDN that pays you, which is what, Twitch is and what YouTube is, but not what Paramount Plus would be.
Yeah. More bundles. Dish Network, the satellite TV service, is bundling Netflix for free when you pay for 2 years subscription to Dish. So existing customers and new customers have to make a 24-month commitment. There are early termination fees, but you get Netflix for nothing for that entire 2 years.
I want to kind of mock this and say adorable and, too little, too late, etc. However, the people who get Dish oftentimes, they are in remote areas, which makes me wonder whether or not there would be like an internet service that goes with it as well.
Yeah. There may well be. Dish does provide some mobile internet services and some other versions of internet service. Rural internet is getting better. My sister can stream Netflix out in the rural area on the farm that she lives on, but she can't stream more than one thing at once when she does it. And there's still a lot of places that don't have proper bandwidth. So yeah. That is an interesting question. Finally, Disney Pixar's Inside Out 2 has reached $863.1 million worldwide through Thursday. That makes it bigger than the original Inside Out, which brought in $859 million global. The sequel also got there in 16 days, which the other film, the original film, took its entire run to get to. It is now the number 19 animated film ever worldwide.
Well deserved. I think we talked about this last week.
Yeah, we did.
It was better than it needed to be, and it was better than the original.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the chatter.
Got mail.
Brian, we have a request from Eric.
Yes.
Eric says, I'm really loving the full experience, but I have one request. Could you share where you are watching the episodes? Like, what platform? Did you have to buy it? Did you stream it for free? When you announce what episode you're watching next, you could just say, we watched this on Paramount Plus, or we had to purchase it on Amazon. And of course, you have to say in the USA, because that's where you are. I get it. But I would like to know. Thanks for all you do, Eric.
Number one, great suggestion. Number two, we thought we had already done that. But then I had the thought, Tom, that sometimes we switch it up during the run. Mm-hmm. And so maybe we could just kind of bake into this week, how did you watch it? Because like, for example, I think Paramount Plus we're doing the Munsters. It's on Paramount Plus, but I bought it on Amazon and I don't know which one I did last time. So maybe it's worth.
And I've been watching it on Peacock. So very clearly it would be useful to do it every time, like Eric is suggesting. Good suggestion, Eric. Thank you for that. Yeah. Jerry says, I remember there being an attempt made at Twin Peaks for Spoiler in Time, but it seemed like someone not saying who lost interest in it or was baffled by the show and bailed.
Guilty as charged. Yes, I actually, to be honest, this is a great example of why we like the full experience, because I could have finished it if that were the case, but instead just the commitment. I believe we also dropped off of Fringe because this is back when seasons were like 75 episodes and there were 20 of them.
Yeah, I made it to the end of Fringe. Could not tell you how it ended though.
It was in a church. They were dead the whole time.
Maybe. Yeah. Scott says, apologies if already discussed. Coming off the heels of your Sliders full experience, I have to recommend the Apple TV Plus show Dark Matter. It combines the world exploring of Sliders with a little bit of science from Primer and adds in a villain whose disregard for human lives borders that of the evil guy from Die Hard. I guess what I'm saying is, if Sliders and Primer had a baby and the villain from Die Hard was his corrupting uncle, this is what the kid would turn out to be. Dark Matter on Apple TV Plus.
Now that, my friends, is how you pitch a show
Damn
to Brian Brushwood.
Well done, Scott.
We also got a very, very long rundown, a very thoughtful rundown of the entire setup from John from Danville, Kentucky. The tech stuff is a little over my head, Tom. Are there any highlights you want to point out?
Yeah, he was in the chat room mentioning using ONN 4K sticks from Walmart and TiVo 4K sticks, previously used Fire sticks. And really, it was a lot of information to get into talking about video projectors. He says, I got the first Kloss Nova Beam 3 lens unit and never looked back. So very much into the world of like, get yourself a cheap quality streamer, and the ONN 4K, he says, are great. And then hook it up to a projector. You'll have the best looking, biggest picture of your life, is how, if I were ChatGPT, I would summarize John's email here.
Right on. Of course, we want to hear from you guys, cordkillers@gmail.com. We need more emails and the suggestions, especially questions. If you have just vague, evergreen questions, we love those.
Indeed. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live, twitch.tv/Night Attack, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I reckon we'll talk to you soon.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.